Welcome to another edition of Islanders Insider. I'm Stephen King, and we welcome you back to the locker room right here on the campus of Texas A&M University Corpus Christi. Today we're going to talk some Islanders basketball with head coaches Willis Wilson and Royce Chadwick of men's and women's basketball, respectively. We'll also look at some of our Islanders student athletes and how they interact in the community. But to start things off, let's meet the head coach of Islander men's basketball, Coach Willis Wilson. Coach, appreciate you joining us again.
Always good to be with you.
Well, I tell you, your team is coming off another long road trip. These road trips sometimes get long and sometimes pretty challenging along the way. Toledo and Iowa were the last two teams that you faced. And, well, what do we learn about this team on this trip and actually dealing with life on the road?
Well, what we learned about our team is that we're not dealing with adversity very well. And the areas where we should be strong, offensive transition, defensive transition, and simply making open shots, we haven't been very good. And we are allowing our poor offensive shooting to really affect our defense, and that's something that we've got to correct. This is a talented basketball team, Stephen, and I'm very, very confident that over time we're going to become a very good team. But right now, we're more of a collection of talent. We've got to learn how to play together, and we've got some particular issues that we're going to have to solve that I've just mentioned.
On the previous road swing, you went to out west, Denver, along with Utah State, and it appeared that you gained a lot as far as confidence and maturity on that trip. Can you say the same for this trip, or was it a step forward or maybe a step backward?
No, sometimes you got to take steps backward to move forward. I said this all along, this is a learning process for our guys, and the only way we're going to learn is to go through some challenging things. We need games to get better. There's no question that we will learn from this last experience going to Toledo and at the University of Iowa. Both those games were winnable games for our basketball team. In terms of talent, we match up very well with both those teams. But the fact of the matter is, we're not paying enough attention to some of the finer points of basketball to improve our execution on both sides of the ball.
Now, it was well noted about the free throw differential at Toledo, but do you just chalk that up to life on the road? I mean, it just happens. And that being the case, did you use it as a coaching opportunity?
Well, there's a lot of little things in free throw shooting. You can't control what the officials do, but there are some things that we try to teach in practice that will either allow you to get to the free throw line more on offense and keep your opponents from getting to the free throw line on defense. And those little things that we preach about in practice, now that we've been on the road and now that we're going through this process of officials making calls against us on both sides, now we have an opportunity to really learn that, oh, that's what coach was talking about. Now this is how I need to fix it. It's unfortunate that we have to go through that process, but sometimes with young people, that's exactly what you go through.
Talk to me about the growth of your freshman class. We played 6 games so far. Have they lived up to your expectations? Has anyone exceeded that, or is maybe some guys still not to the level you need them?
Well, they've played well. They've played hard. One of the things that would make things a lot better for us is just making open shots. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but the fact of the matter is we're making guarded shots at a higher percentage than we are making open shots. And about 65% of our offense comes from open shots. And so our execution is not bad. We're getting good looks. We've got to make some of those shots. And shooting cures all ails. It fixes a lot of things. It takes a lot of pressure off the defense. But when you miss shots, you have poor defensive balance, and that's one of our struggles in defensive transition. When you're missing shots on the offensive side, especially in transition situations, which is about 20% of our offense, it just takes the wind out of your sails when you don't score in advantage situations. And so our psyche is a little bit fragile right now. We're going to have to find a way to fix that, and it's just going to boil down to going back to basic fundamentals. We're going to spend a lot of time just really revisiting the fundamentals as we get ready for our next game.
The reason I ask that question is because one guy seems to me, just listening to the games and reading about the games, is really kind of finding his way is the young gentleman from England, Dale Francis.
Dale Francis has done a nice job, and the one thing that he brings you is he brings energy. He's a guy that goes after balls he can't get, and it creates an opportunity for somebody else to come up with those basketballs. He prides himself on defense and playing hard, and that's a significant factor for our team. With a young team, the prerequisite for Division I basketball is that everybody plays hard. And so if you don't play hard, you don't have a chance to win. And if you don't do it for 40 minutes, you can't beat good teams. And Dale is one of those kids that gives us that. And so we're right now searching for guys that are going to give us a consistent effort, and hopefully that the guys that are inconsistent can grow into that sort of effort.
Of the returning players, it appears to me that Hamid Ali has really greatly improved on his floor composure. You know, currently he leads the Southland Conference in assist to turnover ratio, I think a 3.3 assist to turnover ratio, and he leads by almost I think by a full point in that regard. He's just having a strong start to the year.
He really is, and I think he's made some commitments to himself and to our basketball program that have really shown up in his play. And he has been the one guy that, especially with regard to the returners, that really has bought into how we want to try to do things. And so he finds himself in the right spots, able to make the right decisions. And we've got to give him a little more help right now. He's been pretty good. John Jordan has been pretty solid, but we've got to continue to work at building a team chemistry and kind of putting things together. And you know, I've said this over and over again. We've got 5 guys that have Division I experience, and they've got a full year of Division I experience. So we still have a ways to go in terms of building this program and getting us off the launching pad.
Talk to me about the break in the schedule and the opportunity to get some downtime, kind of allowing your team maybe to reflect on the season to this point, hopefully get a little bit of rest along the way, and the adjustments that need to be made.
Well, my experience over the years is that when you get long breaks in the middle of the season, it can be good or bad. With young teams, it's really going to give us an opportunity to take what we've been through in the last six games and really evaluate some things and put it in a perspective where there's time and distance. There's time before the next game, there's distance before the next game, and the numbers won't lie. And so we can put that in perspective for our guys and begin to really work in a very methodical way on some particular things. And I touched on some of those: offensive transition, defensive transition, rebounding the basketball, just fundamental things that we've got to get better at.
It'll be a couple weeks between this last game against Iowa and the upcoming game against South Alabama. The South Alabama-Texas A&M trip is what's next. Very challenging. Coach Arrow's team is off to a strong start in the Sun Belt. They're 2-0 in the league currently, and of course, the newest member of the SEC, Texas A&M. Hopefully, they don't have themselves a Johnny Basketball. We know about that football kid, but hopefully they don't have a Johnny Basketball.
Well, you know, one of the things that I've always believed is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of a cliche, but there's a lot of truth in that for our basketball team. We are a young basketball team, and we're learning a lot of lessons. And we've been thrust into a pretty challenging situation. We've got this APR issue that's loomed over our heads, the reduced amount of time that we can spend on the practice floor, forced to having to take a day off and only being able to play basketball 5 days a week. It creates some logistical issues for our basketball team. But the truth of the matter is, the championship is won in league play. And so we're trying to do the things that we can do to adjust so that we are prepared once conference play rolls around. Would we like to win more games? Absolutely. We need to win some games to gain some confidence. But the truth of the matter is, we've got to begin to build a sound, solid foundation. The folks that saw us play against the University of Houston saw a very exciting basketball team, and a team that, frankly, we felt like outplayed the University of Houston, but we didn't get the win. And we didn't get the win because we didn't value little things. And when you go on the road and don't do the little things, it bites you in a very different way than it does when you're playing at home.
Coach, appreciate your time today.
Always a pleasure.
When we come back to Islanders Insider, we'll have a feature on our Islander athletes in our community. Stay with us. That's coming your way right here on Islanders Insider. Welcome back to the locker room and Islanders Insider. At this time, let's check out some of our Islander athletes as they work in our community here in Corpus Christi. Matt Brady, our feature correspondent, has the story.
Community service is a big part of Islanders athletics. Giving back to the people who come out to support their teams is something all student athletes enjoy. Recently, several Islanders helped out with 2 great programs, Toys for Tots and Shop with a Cop.
Today it's called Shop with a Cop, and it's basically where we as volunteers meet up or pair up with a cop, and there's a busload of kids that drive in, and as each kid comes off the bus, we pair up with one and have $120 to spend on them. About 90 of that is on essentials for a lot of these kids aren't going to have an everyday Christmas like the majority of people. So we got to prepare them for the winter, but also the rest of that money goes to a toy for them to take home.
It is awesome. These kids would not have a Christmas if it wasn't for this program. They are really some needy kids, and we work with the schools to find them, and truly they wouldn't have a Christmas if it wasn't for this. And they're so fun to shop with, and they're so excited. You know, I'm the fortunate one.
Toys for Tots, run by members of the Marines, helps provide toys to those children who can't afford their own this Christmas.
Are at Toys for Tots at Sunrise Mall to help out. We're sorting out the toys for different ages and packaging them and getting ready to send to families.
Community service is always rewarding, but during the holidays, it's even more so.
I'm so thankful for everything that I have, and I just want to do something to help out the community, help little kids, because if they wake up Christmas morning happy as I am, that would be a really great feeling for me to have.
It's part of using our platform as student athletes to reach out to the community and you know, just help a hand whenever we can.
And for the Islanders, helping out children is the ultimate in giving back.
The kids don't have a lot of opportunities, so someone needs to give back to the community. As community gave all these toys, we have to give them back.
Yes, it's especially special for me because this is my hometown and this is where I'm from, and I know a ton of people here, and so to give back to the kids means a lot for me because I remember when I was a kid here and I had it so nice, so I want to make sure that everybody else has great experience for Christmas, so all the boys and girls have toys.
You don't know if I go to Walmart or if I go to H-E-B, some of those kids could be the kids that I'm helping. I just don't know it.
So whether it's sorting toys or taking a shopping trip, you can bet that the Islanders will be lending a hand in the community once again next holiday season. For Islanders Insider, I'm Matt Brady. We'll be back with more right after this.
Welcome back to Islanders Insider. We're talking Islanders basketball today, and joining us in this segment is the head coach of Islanders women's basketball, Coach Royce Chadwick. Coach, thank you again, sir, for being here.
Nice to see you.
It's been a challenging week. It's been a challenging season, but a very challenging week for you guys. Tough one so far, and even though things seem to be taking a positive turn for you guys on the road at the Colorado tournament, it kind of got rough. Two different type of games. The loss to UT Pan American, and then of course the difficult loss up at the University of Texas. Let's talk about those two games and maybe some of the differences and maybe hopefully some of the positives you can find from them.
Well, it was a tough month for us. You know, we played a lot of games on the road. We went through a stretch of Indiana, Colorado, Auburn. You're talking about a program that's in a rebuilding stage, yet we are playing some of the heavy hitters in women's college basketball, and you culminate that with a road trip to Austin against the top 15 team in the country, Texas Longhorns. So, you know, it was a very trying time for us. I think that our young players are learning to fight through adversity. We played a little bit better in the second half, you know, against Texas than we did in the first half. It's a very daunting place to play when you go in the Drum in front of, I think they had 6,800 fans in there, and it was an electric atmosphere. It was at 11 a.m. game time, and they jumped on us early. But as we began to implement the game plan and we began to do the things that we thought we could do against the University of Texas, we played much better in the second half. And it's a confident sport. Right now we're not a very confident basketball team, and hopefully we can gain some confidence because we got a couple of weeks to practice now.
There is no doubt. But as you said, you got better in the second half. Easily, you could have buried your head in the sand after the first half. It was, you know, just couldn't put the ball in the hole. But in the second half, like you said, they kind of bared down, ran the system, and ultimately played a much better game.
Well, we've done an awful lot of research going into the Texas game. The last time we tried them was in 2008, and they beat us 51. And in that game, we were outscored. They doubled us up in the second half. And so we wanted to go into this game with the thought that they have a dominant post game. They have some great guards. They're going to be bigger than us. They're going to be a little bit more athletic. But we want to go in there and win some 4-minute segments. We want to play 4 minutes and outplay them. We knew that it was going to be a very difficult game, but we didn't want that to taper off as the evening went along. And we were a little intimidated, I think, early, but as the game went on, we began to win a 4-minute segment, and we closed the game out playing much better basketball than we did in the first half, and that's what we're trying to build. What happens to you in November has never sent us home. So we got to get better for December. We got to get better for Southland Conference play, and I thought in that game we improved as the game progressed.
I don't think there's any doubt. Now, junior Ashley Darley, she apparently had an ankle injury early in the game against Texas. Now, first off, how's she doing? And second, how difficult is it for you to not have her athleticism and leadership on the floor?
Well, I think, first of all, we don't have a lot of junior seniors that are leading us in statistical categories. We are being led by Janae Blunt, who is a freshman who has played all of 8 college basketball games. So our second leading scorer and really the heart of our team is Ashley Darley. She's been injured off and on throughout the month of November. She played 4 minutes against Texas. It was devastating in that game to not have all the weapons that we have, because we just don't have a plethora of options when we look down the bench as somebody can come in and add a spark. The entire month of November, what you hope happens is you don't have any illness, you don't have any injuries, you're able to go on the road like we were forecast to do and win some of those basketball games.
Oh, no doubt. Now, with the loss of Ashley, you mentioned Janae Blunt. Janae Blunt had to do one of those bookend efforts and play 40 minutes of basketball. That's pretty challenging for anybody, especially, like you said, in her 8th game at the University of Texas. How often has that happened for you that you've actually put an athlete out there for 40 minutes, and sometimes kind of out of necessity?
Well, not very often, but we were our depth when we took Ashley out and she could not play again. We had to pick up those minutes somewhere else, and we repeatedly, touch base with Janae. Are you good? And she's like, yeah, I want to keep playing. So, even as devastating as the game might have been on the scoreboard, you got a girl out there saying, I'm going to compete. And I think that's, to me, one of the character strengths of our basketball team. They competed the entire night. We did not get one second chance point. We could not get a rebound and get it back in the basket. Yet we are in 19 or 20 offensive rebounds. So, we had people in there competing, but when you have 6'7", 6'6" between you and the basket, Janae led us in rebounding at 5'8". There's a tremendous difference in 5'8" and 6'7" when you're trying to get that put back into the basket. And Texas dominated us in the paint. We were unable to, we fronted them, we backed them, we double teamed them, and we couldn't stop the girls in the paint.
Well, talk about the girls in the paint. First off, you've already lost Demiquia. She is out, I know, with her injuries, and besides her and Brandy, relatively, you're very inexperienced in that situation. Now, Ashanti Plummer, a freshman, she probably had an interesting little rude awakening. She played 8 minutes, but ended up fouling out of that game. And, how troublesome is it? Because I know the depth in that position, in particular with the injuries, is getting thinner and thinner.
Well, that's true, but, Brandy Huff is 5'11". And she fought with those girls all night long. Ashanti Plummer never backed down. If she'd had 25 fouls, she'd have played 35 minutes. But they almost snapped her in half a time or two. The big plus for us is, in our league, there are no 6'7" young ladies. In our league, you're not going to find a girl like NECA who's going to the WNBA. You're talking about a 6'1" girl that they shot the ball the other night and it wedged between the rim and the glass. And we don't have anybody that can jump up there and get it. And she just jumped up there, flipped it out, caught it before it hit the ground. So when you look at the athleticism that Texas Longhorns have, and we played them 6 times. We've been unable to beat them. But that doesn't mean we didn't gain some experience through going up there and playing that game.
Now, what's next, Coach? Now, you've got 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the team takes the court against Texas State. That's on campus at the Dugan Wellness Center on the 15th of December. What will these 2 weeks be like? How are you going to lay them out?
Well, we've been really looking forward to December. We had 8 games in November. And when you look at the stretch between November the 11th and November the 24th, the Houston Rockets played 6 games. We played 6 games in that same stretch. The difference is the Rockets played 4 at home, 2 on the road. We played 4 on the road. So we played an NBA schedule. We had 5 practices in the month of November because we didn't have time. We had some shoot-arounds where we would tweak some stuff, but now we have some chances to practice. We have got to go back to the fundamentals. We didn't have a great fundamental base when we got here, and we have been working on getting that fundamental base to raise. And now we have 14 days before we play again. We got to work on our fundamentals. We have a chance to practice. We have a chance to tweak the things that we've been unable to fix on a one-day turnaround, and we're really, really excited about these upcoming 2 weeks.
Coach, finally, before we let you go, and I appreciate you being here once again, what is it that you preach to your team about dealing with adversity?
Well, I think it's just like life. You know, nothing goes perfect for you. I want our players to be the type of individuals you can count on. When the going gets tough, they'll rise to the occasion, not finger point, but say, come on, we're going to get this done together. But I think that this is a team sport. It is not about one individual. It's about me picking you up and helping you get through the tough times. We have great character on our basketball team, and I think that will show as we go through the rest of the year.
Coach Royce Chadwick joining us here on Islanders Insider. We appreciate you coming in and make the most of these 2 weeks, and look forward to seeing you back on the court here in the Dugan Wellness Center.
Sounds good, Stephen. Thank you.
Stay with us. More to come. You're watching Islanders Insider. Welcome back to Islanders Insider. Appreciate you joining us here today. Thank you again to head coaches Willis Wilson and Royce Chadwick for joining us. Right now, let's look ahead at the Islander basketball schedule for the month of December. Islanders women's basketball take to the Dugan Wellness Center on December 15th as they take on the Texas State Bobcats. Once again, this game on campus, slated for a 7 o'clock start time. Then on the 16th, men's basketball on the road as they travel to Mobile, Alabama to face former Islanders head coach, Coach Ronnie Arrow at South Alabama. That time slated 4:05. On December 18th, women's basketball moves back to the American Bank Center as they host Cornell out of the Ivy League. That is also a 7 o'clock start time. December 18th, the men will continue their road swing as they travel to College Station to take on the Texas A&M Aggies, also slated for 7 o'clock. And then December 21st, Islander men's basketball returns to the American Bank Center as they host UTSA. That game time, 7 o'clock. We want to thank all of our coaches, Coach Willis Wilson and Coach Royce Chadwick, for being with us here once again today. Thank Matt Brady, our feature correspondent, and of course all of our athletes who are doing great work inside our community. We also want to thank you, of course, for tuning in, and we want to wish you all a very happy and safe holiday season. We appreciate you tuning in. Once again, this has been Islanders Insider.